Good morning, everyone. Bom dia a todos. Bem-vindos a essa masterclass. Welcome to this masterclass. I will be giving you some instructions before we start. Vou dar algumas instruções antes de começarmos. I'll be speaking a bit in Portuguese and a bit in English in this beginning, and then we switch to English. Então eu vou falar um pouquinho em português, um pouquinho em inglês, para todos receberem as instruções aqui do evento, e logo vamos mudar apenas aqui para o inglês para começar o evento. Tiago está aqui conosco. Bom dia, Tiago. So I will speak in English first. Daqui a pouquinho eu trago as instruções em português também. We will have around 2 hours in this masterclass with Dasho Karma Ura from Bhutan. He is now in Germany, but he is from Bhutan and will be teaching us about gross national happiness and regenerative leadership. Our meeting will be in English with simultaneous translation to Portuguese. And if you have any doubts, you can write to our team. We are all identified as Florescentia in the beginning. And we hope you have a good meeting and you can receive those valuable teachings we will have today. Então, trazendo um pouquinho aqui também de instruções em português, nós teremos essa masterclass em inglês para receber o nosso convidado de hoje, né? Estaremos falando inglês aqui como uma forma de respeito, hospitalidade, porém estamos sendo traduzidos com tradução simultânea em português. Você provavelmente vai encontrar aqui já lá em interpretação, aqui no Zoom, você clica em mais e vai ali em interpretação, ou tem também um globinho desenhado embaixo ali no seu Zoom, e aí você escolhe o seu áudio em português. Esse canal aqui em que eu estou falando vai ficar em inglês, você deve escolher o outro canal, você vai ouvir uma voz masculina em português, fazendo a tradução do que eu estou falando. E se você tiver alguma dúvida, você pode entrar em contato aqui com a nossa equipe, que está identificada como Florescentia, tá? Então eu espero que vocês tenham uma masterclass assim maravilhosa e nossa equipe está aqui à disposição para atendê-los. Sejam bem-vindos. So, now I will continue speaking in English, and I hope everything is set and everything is organized. Today we are receiving a very special person, but we will first of all hear our greetings from Tiago, which is the coordinator of our master program in purpose culture and regenerative leadership. He's our coordinator and who's hosting this event. And we have a culture here in this company, in this master program, and I will let him open the event and then we continue from there. So Thiago, welcome. You are welcoming me, I'm welcoming you. And you can say some words.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. And before I introduce myself, here inside Florescentia, we have a culture that we make 1 instant of silence to start and 1 instant of silence to close all our classes and our meetings. Then I will invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, align your spine, and just stay a little bit in silence to receive the teachings, to concentrate your attention, to be present. Okay. Then, good morning. For those that don't know me, my name is Thiago. I'm the founder of Florescentia. And on behalf of the master program, welcome, Dasho Karma Ura. It's a pleasure to be here today in this special day. It's a great opportunity to be here today with you. And we are so happy and so grateful to receive you. Our program, I don't know if everybody knows, but we are doing this work since 2010. And our program offers a 2 years specialization. And inside our classes, we study purpose, we study prosperity, we study regeneration, and we guide each people to put in motion your gifts and talents to serve society and regenerate our relation with nature. Here, we believe that everybody has gifts and talents inside that we can use to bring this changing that we want to see in society. Our mission is to help our classmates to awake their regenerative leadership. And here we understand that happiness is so important to our classes. Happiness in a deeply way is so important to learn. And this is the reason that we invited Dasho Karma Ura to stay with us today. And we are so grateful, we are so happiness to receive these teachings. And we are so, I don't have words to say thanks. And I hope you enjoy these teachings, and we are here open to receive. Okay, thank you, Dasho Karma Ura. Thank you, Santosha. Thank you, everybody, to stay here. It's a pleasure to be together today. Enjoy, my friends.
Thank you, Thiago, for your beautiful words and for making it possible for us to receive those teachings today. We were speaking that I am sort of a bridge because I was in Bhutan in 2019 and got to meet Dasho Karma Ura there. And I learned a lot from him. I even wrote a book about my experience in Bhutan and what I learned on happiness, on GNH. And I'm also a teacher in the master program, and I see a lot of similarity between the culture and the teachings from Bhutan, from Bhutan's culture, and from GNH itself, and the way we perceive purpose, prosperity, regeneration in our master program as well. So I think it's a beautiful match that we are being able to do in this morning. So I'm also very happy to be here and very thankful for everyone that made it possible. And now, for us to start, before Dasho Karma Ura speaks, we will call Lama Dawa, which is a Bhutanese Lama, and he will help us to prepare the field to receive those teachings. He will say a few words about how we can let our minds be open to receive what we are about to receive, also chant some mantras. So I ask Lama Dawa, please open your camera and your microphone, and then you can say a few words. Welcome, very good to have you here, and you can speak as you feel.
Tashidele and Kususambo to everyone here. And thank you very much for Dasho Karma Ura for having me here and inviting in this wonderful project. And before I start, I want to thank my guru and masters. I want to gratitude to my teachers, parents, friends, and all other who are connected with me. They are the one who turned me and opened my mind. So I'll chant prayer for remembering my gurus and masters. Sanje Jada Tsoge Chonam La Janjo Bado Dane Jason Jo Dagi Jinsu Jebe Sanamge Dola Benja Sanje Droba Sho Chaze Watan Cheje Shabatan Juzo Yara Guje Sawaye Gyawa Chunsan Dage Chisaba Tomjan Dage Jancho Chingu Sashi Beshe Chushe Medocham Rira Lishe Nyede Jebande Sanje Shindo Mikde Bilwayin Doga Namda Shindo Chimbai Shu. So I am Buddhist practitioner and sharing my Buddhist experience to others, which I have learned in the Buddhist Institute and in my retreat. And I found it helps physically and mentally to many people in this time. And this practice is also not every time same, according to the culture, according to the situation, according to the people's their problems, difficulties, their challenges. So we have many different ways to apply our practice. And like the Buddha says, Dikbachi mejashi gyawa pinson chokarche rangi semne yonso du dene sanje tenbaye. So this is Buddha's teaching, saying how to care our own mind, how to respect others, not to disturb and not to harm other beings. That means to develop love, compassion, peace, caring, helping, sharing, because we live together and share one planet. So we together can make a beautiful and happy life. So we have to begin, or we have to start from ourselves and share to others, friends, family, and other beings. And also, the main practice is really to care our own mind. When you handle your own mind, feelings, then you can help the other beings. And also to meditate. Meditation, I really find in Western, it was very, very helpful, and many people, they used to come here, we meditate together. Then I share how I practiced in my retreat, how I study. And I have also learned a lot from their cultures. So I think the main practice is not only a cost studying is very, very important, but to develop peace, happiness, caring, we have to feel it. So to feel, we have to meditate, we have to contemplate, we study lots of books and many different things, but at the end, we have to take it one very beautiful sentence or words, and you can rest and meditate. It will really bring some benefit for ourselves, and we can help others also. So I will chant the mantra and make some good wishes and prayers to our Mother Earth and all beings. You can relax, stay peacefully, and hear me. Kordo kandon mon beko Göngen jinson da duki Jinge love jeshe so Goron be my So while I'm chanting the mantra, I used to visualize all the sentient beings. I used to share the positive energy, the blessing, and the power of that mantra to all sentient beings very far, and it touches there, and they receive all the blessings from this mantra, and they became free from the suffering. So this is how when we are chanting, and I'll make a dedication. Jancho semjo rimbo che ma je ba na che jo je je ba nyam ba me ba ye go ne ha gon do de wa sho. So I don't want to take it to your precious time, so I would like to say thank you very much. Really, really, it was very nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lama Dawa, for spreading your holy words and opening this field for us to receive those teachings. I hope, as you said, that we can grow in love and happiness and receive those teachings in our minds, but in our hearts as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we will start with Dasho Karma Ura speech, and it's a very pleasure to receive you here, as we are saying and repeating. Dasho Karma Ura is a very wise man, and when I was in Bhutan, he was also very generous with us. He received us in his house for a dinner, and we got to meet him and his family and receive valuable teachings from him. And I'm sure everybody will be able to feel and receive these valuable words that he has to share with us. If you have questions, we will leave a form, a Google form here on chat, so you can write your questions there, and we can leave the chat, and anything that could deviate our attention, we will eliminate those things so we can be focused to receive. And then you can use the form to send your questions if you have any questions. And in the end, we have a question and answer session. So Dasho Karma Ura, welcome. Good to have you here. And you can say your words now for us. Thank you.
Welcome and my respectful greetings to all of you. I'm very privileged to be talking to so many of you today. I can see 531 people watching our event. You know, the train is moving, and along with the passengers inside a train is moving. We can try to perfect our own compartment and forget about the train. Or we can try to change the direction of the train. This is our choice. The principle of GNH try to go beyond the individual practice in order to change the speed and direction of the train. But it can also be implemented at an individual level so that you perfect your own well-being and happiness by improving the compartment in the train. When it is applied to the individual passengers, the journey of life for that passenger can be improved rather than the society as a whole. But if you want to take a systemic approach to happiness, then we have to adopt a broader framework for a perspective on happiness. And I want to discuss that broader factor. And those factors in relation to happiness are time, the natural environment, community, the government or the state, culture, and then such individual things like living standard or income, psychological well-being, education, and health, etc. These 9 broad areas need to be discussed to accommodate relevant issues of modernity. So this is what I propose to do. And I will not be able to discuss today things like measurement and matrix of GNH. And my discussion will proceed from the outer conditions or the context of happiness to inner and personal conditions of happiness. Occasionally, I will analyze things from the Buddhist point of view, because today our request from Natalia was really to put as much as possible analysis from a Buddhist point of view. But that doesn't mean you have to be Buddhist. It is only perspective from a Buddhist side we are taking occasionally. So let us begin first by discussing the first broad context for happiness. That is time. Time is a factor in happiness. But the time, especially measured clock time, year time, month time, century time, millennium time, is beyond anybody's control. It is automatic, moves forward. But even though the days are same for all of us, quality of experience is different. We may live exactly the same 70 or 80 years, exactly the same quantity of time, but the quality of health will differ quite a lot. Ultimately, judgment on objective time, day, month, weeks, century, etc., is based on subjective time. That is how you experience events. End of life will come to all of us. We don't know tomorrow, day after, next year, 10 years later, it will come. But we will all meet it in very different ways because our experiences are different. And the time, objective time we all have, is influenced by government regulations, economic structure, culture, as well as individual preferences and chances. To have adequate time is condition of happiness. In rich places, money is not constraint anymore. People are lucky in that respect. But objective time has become a constraint. You don't have enough time. And time is very unique condition of happiness. It is incommensurable because you can't substitute lack of time with anything, money, power, commodities. You can't exchange. And now, however, you have to get adequate objective time for adequate rest, restoration, socialization, and sleep. These are becoming new issues in the world. Stress, night shift work dictated by economy, caffeine, alcohol, digital disturbance, etc., are stealing our time. We don't have enough control. And this lack of adequate sleep is contributing to the rise of Alzheimer's disease, depression, chronic pain, cancer, diabetes, weight gain, immune deficiency, so many problems because of lack of sleep. So I would like to say that sleep for 7 to 9 hours for adult should become the priority. Waking time is secondary in importance. So now, again, even though the objective duration of sleeping time may be same between two persons, the quality of their dreams and the quality of their sleep may differ, and that makes a difference to happiness the following day. Not only sleep, dreaming is a necessary activity for human beings. You know, sleep expert Walker says that dreaming is night therapy, automatic night therapy, in order to enhance emotional and mental health, in order to enhance creativity and problem solving. So these are very important things, sleep and dreaming. In the management world, since Natalia asked me also to touch on leadership, leaders and organizations focus on management of objective time as strategic means towards transforming their organizations. Their attention is occupied always with workers' objective time. But you know that from research, people spend more than half a day mind wandering. Their mind is not there where their body is. So they are always time traveling, although they are physically not traveling, you know. So subjective time is really important for happiness. Also, it is important for meaning, for the autobiographical narrative of human lives. And one person who studied time, Robert Levin, he said that we are living in a very strange condition. He says one of the life's crueler irony is that time seems to drag when we wish it to go by quickly, and it goes so quickly when it wants to be savored. So in emotional terms, people feel happy when they are subjectively unaware of passing of time. Time feels non-existent when you are happy. So that is really all the most common condition we all have equally, but we experience it enormously differently in our life. in our age groups, in economies. Now I come to the second most important condition for happiness. This is natural environment. Natural environment. And the natural environment is the shared vessel or the container. We all sit on it. We are all supported by the earth. And this is the metaphor, the container used by Buddhist text. So I'm just drawing on Buddhism now. The universe consists of the container and the content. The content is life, organisms, living things, and the content is the inanimate physical structures. Now, according to Buddhist view, the inanimate physical world as well as the living organisms arise and experience reality according to the cumulative virtues and non-virtues of each of them. They are happy or unhappy, they are fortunate or unfortunate due to their unfolding karma. What is karma? Karma is simply the fruits of your intentions and actions. This is a causal moral world. So the ebb and flow of life on this planet is being driven by intentions and actions of beings. Now, this way of viewing the world and evolution brings immediately into play the enduring ethics impact on the enduring drama or theater of the universe. The status of the natural world, natural environment on happiness should be connected, these two things to be connected. Usually in the literature on the lessons on happiness and well-being, is very much focused on your compartment in the train, so to speak. How to improve your income, your family, your work-life balance, etc. You're not too much bothered about how the train is going, where is it going, or it will be crash, or is the journey going to continue for thousands of years? And one of the results of this is also forgetting about the broader things like the environment. And it leads to the impression that human beings can stand outside nature. It's a distant view of the natural world that is promoted by taking such a narrow thing about happiness. Incidentally, this kind of abstract consideration about nature leads to, of course, alienation. Alienation from any aesthetic experience of nature. This is the main point I want to connect. Happiness and natural environment through aesthetic experience. The use of natural environment as a resource source, that is well known through economy, through exploitation. That's very well known. What is less emphasized is really the man's dependence on natural environment for daily aesthetic experience through color, through beautiful movement, through beautiful form, through beautiful sound. This is how we survive every day, actually. How the ordinary people compensate lack of other things through aesthetic experience. So aesthetic experience of nature is profoundly important for happiness. Of course, that also follows that, like Brazil, if the environment is rich in flora and fauna, greater will be the possibility for the impact on happiness. But if your mind is completely shut off or insensitive to that, You will be, of course, disconnected. So the beauty of physical world, needs to be appreciated more. But how to do it? How to do it? First, we need to realize how deprived, how depressed we would be if we do not have access to aesthetic experience of nature. Now, I don't want to go too much into this thing, but this beautiful aesthetic experience of our body and mind, both at the conscious and unconscious level, you may not be conscious of it, but still you will have benefit out of it. This beauty are visible and can be experienced in such things as as fractals, such things as what underlies beauty in mathematical terms, like Fibonacci numbers, golden ratios, This nature's beauty is manifested as symmetry, perfect symmetry, economy, so small volume, but efficient functioning because the shape is so beautiful. So elegant, Now, experience of aesthetic beauty is the only way man can integrate intellectual and sensory side of our being. This is important. Otherwise, you will have ruthless intellectuals with no empathy. And the deep perception of beautiful things, beautiful movement, beautiful sound, beautiful colors, etc., will not come by just looking at it. Just the visual impression, you will not get it. You have to realize this aesthetic experience by representing or visualizing that in your mind. So the whole structure of the tree or the leaf is like viewing art. All the totality of that beauty has to be compacted and felt in your mind. It's like a meditation, really. Okay, so you have to evoke it in that way to evoke happiness. The theories about it are mentioned by Humboldt, Goethe, all of, like, for example, Goethe linked colors to emotional experience. For example, he said the vision of a lush green forest is associated with balance and calmness, and hence our consciousness of forest can bring tranquility and restfulness into us. Movement, sound is good sequence. Beautiful, good sequence makes both movement and sound beautiful. So I just want to emphasize this part of nature rather than the resource part. Now, the resource part I would like to come as the third broad condition of happiness, the living standard. As you know, that economy essentially consists of the market-priced goods and services. They increase every year according to GDP, and that's also the current reductionist way of measuring progress. But it's a false relationship. It's a non-linear relationship. It's a linear relationship. Actually, reality is non-linear. GDP increases, we are forced to believe that also welfare has increased, happiness has increased. So it's a very crude equivalence, crude linear relationship, which is not true. Suppose your government invests such a lot of money in road construction, GDP goes up, we are supposed to be better off. Or the military expenditure goes up, GDP goes up, we are supposed to be feeling much better in terms of well-being and happiness, etc. So I think there is no direct correlation, and we have to try different measures of GDP. We are still looking, there is no consensus. But countries like Brazil and these organizations like all of yours can play a very big role in correcting this misperception of the problematic measurement that is GDP. Anyway, the current problem, as you know, is that extraction is very excessive, 92 billion tons a year, whereas measurement shows that somewhere near 8 billion tons is probably sustainable. So 3 times extraction than possible is going on. And that tells you how very soon we will reach a point of suicide, point of planetary suicide. And even if you grow at as low as 3%, GDP has to, double every 24 years. Such a huge jump, in a century 3 times. How can you accommodate? Nothing grows at that level, Anyway, not only, even if there is material, the transformation is problematic because the material cannot be converted into goods and services without pollution and waste. Even if the material is enough, since you don't have technology, you can't control the side effects, and side effects are devastating. And from a moral point of view, as you know, the pollution arises because someone shifts cost from herself to another person. Fossil fuel pollution, what is it? Is you are shifting the cost to somebody else in the future or not present. Mining pollution, what is it? You are shifting the cost to somebody else. So this is very problematic, really. Anyway, under marketization, commodification of the current economy, capitalism is pushing all other value system into monetary values. And you drive education, you drive health into commodity driven by profit. It can be no longer based on rights or needs. So lots of moral and ethical implications of intrusion of the market monetary values into other spheres of life, which should be protected from that. Now, another very important broad condition, which is very necessary to consider in the globalization and cosmopolitan thinking in the world, is community. And the community, as you know, broadly consists of parental relationship, romantic relationship, kinship, friendship, and community membership. Crucial for happiness, all of them very crucial for happiness, unless you are enlightened and can live alone meditating. Otherwise, in our ordinary life, these are vital lifelines. And they can only be sustained through commitment, through intimacy, through sharing. And quality of relationship matter much more than frequency, So my main point is that happiness cannot be independent of natural environment. It cannot be independent of community. It's a necessary condition, community. And we each, the way we behave, way we are in an organization, influence the happiness and well-being of other members. That's a community. If your behavior influences others' happiness, you are in a community. If it is not, then it is completely isolated. And happiness is also a gift to another person. It's an intangible gift. And it comes suddenly when twists and turns in the path of human relationship goes right. That's also where the meaning lies. Something unexpected and good has happened, people feel meaning right in the core of their heart. Intellectual meaning is different. That's different. So, community, social circle defends happiness within. Without it, an individual has nowhere to belong. And belonging is a primal, primordial emotion among human beings. It's also probably a primordial emotion amongst animals who live together. So, if the individual then, against his own primal, instinctive urge and seeking, is frustrated, then an individual who lives alone and isolated really feels he cannot contribute, he cannot receive anything, he cannot contribute anything. Then there will be a crisis in the meaning of life. So, and not only a crisis in the meaning of life, also in the passage of life, you may die without anyone to do your funeral. Such things are happening. So, and you may have to live for such a long time in old age, alone, with just medical existence, no social existence. So, soloness and isolation can deprive many things. Love, laughter are deprived, and you fall on mental ill health for a long time. No humor that triggers laughter is such a powerful thing for us, you know. And if you can have, you should have daily good belly laughter where you get exhausted, just like doing exercise. And that is also supposed to produce a lot of chemicals that are good for feeling well, like oxytocin, dopamine, endorphin, etc., etc. So laughter, of course, is a very social phenomenon. We laugh together, we laugh socially, and that also can go missing. If you have no one to laugh with, you can't laugh alone. Anyway, in community, in relationship, you also practice what is one of the most uplifting things in human life, that is unconditional loving kindness. Now, unconditional loving kindness is the feature of relationship between a nurturing mother and a child. That is perfection of human relationship, because mother does not expect anything from the child. Anything from the child. It is a perfection of generosity. And that's how you learn in the community, offering perfection of generosity. Nothing in return you want. And that is also how you accrue benefit to others, not to yourself, to others, which is the basis of Buddhist ethics I'll come to later on. So, there are certain techniques, as you know, in Buddhism, Tonglen meditation, mind training, etc. Is going to be preceded first by breath and mindfulness practices. And this is imaginary generosity. You just imagine systematically how grateful you are, who has been very kind to you, you're like your mother, and then imagine that everyone had a mother, and so the network multiplies to the whole universe, that sort of thing. But then, and that is only mental, it has to be followed by actual generosity. Actual generosity. And actual generosity is the antidote for selfishness and greed. That sinks humanity. That sinks him. And I come to later on to do that, explain about that. In the last 200 years, we are doing more and more of that, sinking the whole planet. So But I want to finish off on this condition of happiness in terms of community by mentioning that community is prior to nations. Community is prior to the single legal order of modern legalism. Community is prior to even national identity, really. All of these things grew, got nurtured, and practiced in the community. So I hope that we will really stress in future on decentralism, as much as possible. And community is far more important. It is in the community that a child becomes a human being, a member of society, a member of community, by forging decisions together in the community. So that is it. Now, the big thing about a large condition, infinitely an powerful condition in our life, that is state and the government. State and the government. What kind of government can give us happiness? What is the system? I mentioned that individuals can give each other happiness. Government cannot give happiness. But government changes all the conditions for happiness. So therefore, to think about what sort of government we want becomes terribly important, terribly important, because their rules, regulations, economic structure, etc., permeate and penetrate our personal life. There's no distinction from public and private sphere as far as government regulations impact on happiness is concerned. This is artificial division only. Actually, there is no division between private and public affairs. So laws and policies regulate our behavior, our thought, our relationship with other human beings. And so we may think that we are free, but the cause and conditions of our happiness are not really very often situated in our own biology and in our own mind, is influenced by the government. So how to change government's policy and legislation, parliaments, organizations, etc., has become a crucially important thing. So that's what I'm talking about, the train, not the compartment. Now, I would like to emphasize that freedom and rights are crucial for happiness and suffering, flourishing. They are necessary conditions for responsibility, for co-creation, for agency. And also, you might add, it is necessary condition for Buddhist metaphysics of karma. If you have no responsibility, no co-creation, no agency, how can karma come to you? It has to go to the president only, or the parliamentary head, or the MPs only, So, but from a Buddhist point of view, we are not concerned exclusively with human rights and freedom. If pain and suffering is common among all higher species of animals, mammals included fully, then this is the common feature. This is the common basis for rights to be extended also to other sentient beings. In the last 200-300 years, we have thoroughly overstepped into suppression and dominance into the animal world. So we have to confront the concept of rights to life reserved so far to human beings. We have to confront the right to unlimited property and income by generosity and compassion. So, but Buddhist ethics has no architecture on government, governance, and institutions. It doesn't tell anything about the separation of powers or, how the judiciary should be organized, etc. It doesn't how the police should be organized. But what it says a lot is that the ethical training is necessary for human beings, and if the best of human nature is to be realized. And you can realize that by attending to free yourself from the three afflictive states of ignorance, anger, and greed. As I mentioned, the consequence of global greed escalated in the last 200 years. In the late 19th century and again after 1970s, when the neoliberal capitalism was promoted heavily from 2 countries and then it spread all over the world. So it has brought, of course, innovation and prosperity on the one side, but it has also brought inequality, climate change, and biodiversity collapse on the other side. And this negative side now seems to be very much predominant. So we have to, so now by my watch, it is 38 minutes. Natalia, can you tell me how much time I have left?
Yes, it can be around 30 minutes more.
Okay, so then I will hurry. Okay. Now, anger and aggression, one of these 3 mental afflictive states, has also changed the stance of nations towards other nations, not only between individuals. Anger and fear shape the international relations as much as hope for external peace and inner happiness. You know how much we spend on global military expenditure? I've just read. It's 2.3% of the global GDP in 2023. 2.3%. That's about 2.5. That's about 2.5 trillion or 2,443 billion. Do you know how much if it is, if you share this money by all the people in the world, each one will get $300. Of course, we won't get it. It's just an exercise, calculation, Now, compare this, military expenditure by official development assistance. It's only 204 billion per year. 204 billion per year. So we spend, and as a proportion of global GDP, it's only 0.36. 0.36. So you spend about 2.5% on military and only 0.36 on official development assistance. So this is how anger and fear misdirects resources today in the world. Ignorance is something quite different. Ignorance is illusion of the permanent and independent self. This is a Buddhist line. Of course, you need not believe in it. You're different, but this is a Buddhist line. Anyway, the illusion of independent and permanent self has a very important consequence. That is that it leads to attachment to yourself, which does not exist. that's the main point. So from Buddhist point of view, these 3, anger, ignorance or delusion, and greed, are supposed to be the root causes of suffering, an obstacle to happiness, as well as obstacle to something beyond happiness, which is enlightenment. And one Lama, I found it quite witty, he is the late Lama Thalek Chapgen Rinpoche. He has described nirvana or enlightenment as peaceful suicide. That's quite interesting. He was, of course, joking. So now, what is the Buddhist antidote to all this living standard running down the world, militarization, and it's ethics that is based on character formation or virtue of individuals. So it's a virtue ethics that Buddhism promotes. And there are 6 virtues, which are generosity, morality, toleration, perseverance, means endlessly trying hard without giving up hope. Concentration, this is requires meditative discipline. Concentration requires discipline. This is not a sort of easy thing to do unless you take up meditation meditation on a systematic basis. And wisdom, really wisdom means really overcoming ignorance of independent self. And that leads to attachment. So Buddhist ethics is based on character exemplars rather than rules. Consequentialism, utilitarianism, or Kantian ethics, etc., based on rule observations. So in relation to governance or management, those who hold offices, according to Buddhist ethics, ought to embody virtues as their character. And I will come back to this later on when I discuss leadership. What Buddhist ethics says is that if you lack virtues, or if the office holders lack virtues and qualities, this will get inevitably reflected in the operation of the organizations. This is a very serious point from Buddhist ethics point of view. You can develop all sort of rules and regulations and punishment, but it will recur because the character of the people who inhabit these organizations or government or parliament or some hi-fi AI organization, it will be infected or contaminated or polluted because the character is wrong. So, but liberal moral theory does not emphasize virtue or individual character formation. It doesn't emphasize. That is left as private matter, private sphere. It doesn't advocate character virtues. So that's the difference, really. That's the difference. And but there's a very big difference, I would like to say, between liberal moral theory and Buddhist ethical theories. I would like to now come to another broad conditions of happiness, and that is culture. Culture. A culture is what? It is entrenched habit amongst a people. That's how I would like to define it. Because it legitimizes your habits, whether it is good or bad. If it is bad, it's a mass sort of vice also. Now, in certain ethics, happiness and activities associated with are philosophized, legalized in culture. In certain ethics, that sort of things are muted. That sort of things are not seen as important. Happiness is not seen as important, or activities associated with happiness is also not seen as important in some culture. It may espouse some other things like materialism or some other things as very important, like excellence in research, or and so in some cultures, how people sense and experience material objects may not be an important question at all. What may be important is that provision of material is important, but not what is the relationship between objects and people experience. So in Buddhism, of course, the primary emphasis is placed on individuals learning and transforming mind and body through first-person experience, not even research, which is a third-person assessment. Of course, originally, faith and devotion to a deity or God is not important in Buddhism. It may have been promoted by some later, but originally it is not. So, most important thing in transforming the mind and body is the culture of meditation. Culture of meditation. No, so meditation is favored in some culture, it's not favored in some other culture, In even Bhutan, prayer is more emphasized than meditation. Prayer is, but prayer is not effective. Prayer may be effective in generating hope and confidence, but it is not very effective in transforming mind and body. So there is a very low participation rate in meditation in Bhutan, about 7% of the population, as opposed to very overwhelming population of something like 68% in daily prayer. That's a lot. Now, meditation can be loosely defined as a practice of bringing attention to the present moment of experience and observing the experience from a higher awareness. Now, there are many varieties of meditation, as you know, but they can be categorized in a summary way into three. Those that improve attention, that's one. And that can help you in management, businesses, everywhere, to make your mind flexible and relaxed at the same time, and attentive at the same time. Very strange contradiction. Relaxed, flexible, and also focused at the same time. And the second type of meditation is loving kindness and compassion meditation. That can improve your character for the benefit of others. And lastly, focus on insight beyond ordinary thinking to something called non-dual awareness. So the most important one for all of us at the low level of meditation, as you all know, is attention meditation. And that is to suppress default network mode, which is the normal operating system in our mind. That's also called the afflictive mind, among the three divisions of mind. So that's the simplest one. And as I said, that trains attention to focus on something while controlling distractions and making people feel free, relaxed, and spacious. It will sort of prevent people from drifting endlessly into past and future in an endless succession of momentary thoughts and perceptions. Basically, it means if these things happen, you are not in control of yourself. That's what it means. But one of the side benefits of doing this attention meditation is that a stable kind of joy, pleasant feelings will come out from the meditation. And that spontaneous arising of joyful feeling is the result of two things. First, it is the result of distancing your consciousness from all pressing matters of the present. So the present worry about money, family, this, that becomes smaller and smaller in your perspective, And then second, it is the joyful feeling in meditation is the result of breathing in composure, which inclines the mind and the body towards tranquility, So the still mind is always a joyful mind, a still body is always a painful body, etc. So that's from Analayo, one of the great scholar meditator today. So, but of course, finally, the purpose of higher meditation is to gain three things, as you know. One is called joy, other is clarity, and third one is no thought. No thought. Mankind is driven by thought. There is relief if you don't think anything at all, but that's also not possible very easily. So that's it. And lastly, I want to come, before I go into leadership, I have how much? 15 minutes now?
Yes, can be 15, 20 minutes.
15, okay. I will keep it to that. Now I come really to the inner side, and that is emotional and psychological being. What has happened gradually in education and training is that it has made rationality and skill building more important than emotions. It has elevated rationality over emotions. Whereas even reasoning is always tagged by emotions. If your framework of emotion is pleasant, positive, the reasoning is slightly different. So it's the background, it's the base, from which all sort of things, causal thinking, rational thinking, reasoning, etc., arises. So in any case, if you suffer from high intensity and high frequency of negative emotion, it basically means you're not happy, you're not joyful, you're not pleasant. So that is why emotions and its analysis and solution to it occupies a profound position in Buddhism. I think it was the first psychological religion in the world. But even in modern scholarship, like that of Martha Nussbaum, anger has been described as a central threat to decent human interaction. Central threat. Anger is useful because it provides a trigger to overcome social injustices. You are angry at social injustice, so you mobilize energy against it. But it can also become very destructive as an endless process. So you have to bring a close to that. You have to bring an end to that. And there is not much option left except to forgive and be generous and close the chapter and move on, move forward, instead of endlessly plotting revenges, and sitting so heavily on your heart. So Buddhism talks very much about negative emotions, including anger, greed, and ignorance. But ignorance is slightly different. Ignorance is not emotion. It's the belief in the artificiality of the self, and that takes a lot of analytical thinking. But anger and greed, is a bit compulsive in a human being unless you train your mind and see from third-person point of view. Develop much bigger, profound view, etc. So they need to be extracted, they need to be neutralized, and for us to move forward. And non-judgmental awareness meditation is useful in that, And the practice of the 6 virtues I mentioned is also extremely useful in that, Worry, sadness, selfishness, and fear are major emotions confronting human beings. And as you know, fear is linked to anger. Somebody is angry at you, that is why you fear. And coercive leadership in companies, which is coercive, leadership in government, which is coercive. Sometimes this fear is deliberate because they want obedience from you. They want to cover something by suppressing people through fear. So fear has played a big role in governance, negative role. And when there is enough fear amongst the population, they cannot get agency to do good things. They can't mobilize their energies. And blind obedience, police state is created. And of course, the use of fear has been promoted in Western political theory from people like Machiavelli. Also, it is there in Locke and Hobbes and so on and so forth. But some modern social scientists have argued that even in corporations in UK and US and Australia, the presence of fear amongst the employees in a corporate work is a factor in the loss of productivity and dynamism. So this is sort of early research in the companies, that where there are too much fear, companies' innovation and productivity is lost. Maybe even even turnout is lost because, people don't feel like coming to office as much as they like. So, but making progress in emotions has been found to be very difficult. In the last 17 years, we haven't made big progress at all in emotional quality and frequency in Bhutan. So far more systematic approach than we have had so far seems to be needed. I won't go into the statistical result, but GDP in the last 7 years has doubled, but hardly any change in the frequency and the prevalence rate of negative emotions or positive emotions. The consequence of this is that if this important thing, this phenomena is important and you include in the GNH index, it doesn't allow GNH index to move forward very much. Material progress is going very fast ahead very much, but this is not improving. Therefore, on the whole, if you look at this GNH index, it won't move forward very much as exciting GDP numbers, which politicians cite as the matrix of progress. So yeah. But now current emotional experiences, just before that, I want to say that in general, frequency of anger, fear, and worry declines with age. So it's age related. It comes down as people become mature and wise. The frequency is lower and lower every day. But worry and fear again climbs up as you pass 50. So they begin to be haunted by some other sources of fear. And nobody is measuring all these things, and governments are not measuring this. I mean, ideal indicator of progress would be to see the average positive emotions going up, average heart rate in the world coming down, and so on and so forth. So now, of course, emotional experience now and emotional experience remembered are two different things. The overall judgment a person makes about whether her life has been happy depends not only on emotional experiences as the episodes occur, but also on retrospective assessment. They just try to remember their past life. And when you do that, then people think like this: how have I closed my life aspiration? How much aspiration gap I have closed? But there is one more important thing, and that is that they also think about how much have I closed the gap in my ideal life. Now, ideal life and aspirational life is different. Aspirational life is dependent on the standard of contemporary society, so it will be materialistic. But the ideal life is dictated by moral and ethical theories, and so that if you measure yourself against ideal life, then you may become more and more unhappy in contemporary societies. So yeah, and when you feel that the ideal life gap is not getting close, then you get the sense of meaninglessness and the sense of absurdity about life. You feel absurd, the life is meaningless. And also your materialistic or aspirational goal, although they have been achieved, you try to justify. And you look for justification upon justification. Oh, I've made 2 billion. Okay. How to justify 2 billion? Another justification, and all the justification end in nothing at the end. And you are exposed to a sense of absurdity and despair in the meaning of life. Now, from a Buddhist point of view, final causes are introduced. Final cause is introduced in the thought, intention, and action. I mentioned intention and action. as the definition of karma. Okay, so when the intention and action comes to an end, the justification also come to an end. There is no existence of justification or any justification after that. So suffering is brought about by confusion of human condition, which is ignorance. And that matters, ignorance about the self, about intention and action, is hugely important in getting rid of suffering. But to think of life is meaningless, absurd, from a Buddhist point of view, is itself a form of suffering. I hope you get that. Yeah. So now a few words to conclude about ethics and leadership. I want to say that today leadership things are focused always on communication, charisma, styling, and the number of scores in social media, etc., etc. And contemporary number of interviews and so on and so forth. And my few videos I launch are hopeless. After 10 minutes, they are so boring, nobody watches. Anyway, what I want to say is that leadership is not independent of substantive questions. And substantive questions are always about existence. And the substantive question of existence are not independent of the idea of good life and the idea of ideal life. It's always 2000 years, we always discuss those things, So good life, ideal life should always include ultimately things that matter very much in life. And things that matter in life are not just my personal, crazy happiness, but really about community, environment, emotions, yes, nature of governance, all those things. And for Buddhism, of course, the ideal life is a reduction of suffering for others. Okay, not number of pleasures you have fulfilled yourself. That is utilitarianism and consequentialism. Buddhist criteria is following these 6 excellences or virtues. How much have you created happiness for others? It's a very different way of measuring or putting criteria. It's how much you have done, created happiness for others. And as a result, you are supposed to reap the benefit, So that's the difference, really. So in of course, the Aristotelian virtue, justice, temperance, courage, practical wisdoms are emphasized. But Buddhist ones, the near goal is the reduction of suffering. The final goal is liberation for all and, self-annihilation through nirvana and so on and so forth. So, so in Buddhism, suffering can be reduced simultaneously for others and oneself by practicing these 6 virtues. But you can also joke a little bit, and we can say that there are too many teachings now, so many lamas, so many spiritual leaders, and really too little illumination, it seems, too little liberations. And one of the reasons is that spiritual leaders themselves have become occasionally unconvincing. They are socially conservative. Many of their elite spiritual leaders are masked agents of hierarchy and wealth. They are very wealthy people, by the way. So that's one way of looking at it. And there is substantial block of opinion who look at it like this also, them as conservative, whereas Buddha was the most radical figure. of his time, until his time, and still, I think, if you look at his philosophical views. One can also, of course, satirize or deride that there are too many elections and far less democracy. That's one way of looking at liberal political theory, liberal politics and economy. Their formality is accelerating in the world, but not the substance. One of the main reasons, in my view, for this phenomena I just described globally is partly due to the shift away from virtue ethics, the ethics of character formation. I made this, this shift away from virtue to other kind of ethics prevalent today has taken place since the 18th century, since 70s, 90s onwards, in my opinion. So it has been gathering force. As I mentioned, virtue ethics, including Buddhist ethics, assign importance to individual qualities and virtues instead of systems and institutions. So, but the systems and institutions, I have said, are contaminated because if the individuals within it, they'll always find ways to corrupt the systems. They'll always find ways to bend the systems. So we have seen also institutional insulation of crimes committed in and through the offices and institutions people hold. They have been the greatest threat to human freedom and rights. Not individual criminals, though they have also damaged. Their reach is limited, really. But if you use government organizations, the reach is very long and wide. And it has happened. So many wars, so many, killings in a massive scale. And we can also see colonialism and imperialist projects as fitting the nature of institutional crimes. It's been justified at the institutional level. It's institutionalized, it's not practiced at the individual level. So then we have difficulty when the crimes are committed by institutions, and institutions are composed of individuals, and all individuals participate in the decision-making of those odious decisions. We have very difficulty in holding them responsible and accountable. How can you hold entire government responsible? How can you hold entire ministries responsible? But as a network of individuals, everyone has participated in major decisions of negative kind. So institutions are absolutely vulnerable when it is controlled by those who have no virtues. And thus, the world could be different if the leaders manifest virtues of character in both public and private realms. And the 6 excellences or virtues can be cultivated to attain awakening for oneself while benefiting simultaneously others. Here, the goal is the path. The path is the goal. They are not separate. Both society and leaders can attain happiness and flourishing at the same time. And to conclude, the domains of GNH are fields of leadership actions, while the 6 virtues are modes of being a leader or being a person. Thank you for your kind attention and for tolerating this very boring talk. Yes, now we open for the question and answers.
Thank you, Dasho Karma Ura. It's a very big pleasure to hear you, to learn from you. And I'm deeply touched, as I think our public also is. Not boring at all, and very enlightening. Thank you very much. We received many questions here. We are going to make a selection. as you said, our approach, our view about happiness in our Western culture is very much disconnected from those things you just taught us. We look at happiness culturally as pleasure or power or money. This is still very much connected in common sense to happiness. But as you said, we are inside a train and we are deciding to change the direction instead of only taking care of our compartments. And our community of students has this in common. We are all committed to changing this path of the train. So maybe you could start by answering, how can we align with this sense of happiness as service, as being there for the others? How can we start changing this mindset and aligning to those virtues you spoke about? Because as I am understanding, we should start personally and then go to institutions and then go to the leadership itself. So how can we start walking into this path, in your view?
Thank you very much. This is a question of implementation, you are asking. And you are asking implementation at a collective level. Now, no longer concerned only with transforming yourself, but you want to also transform others. Now, there you can deploy the notion of skillfulness. It depends on your skillful observation of where the opening exists. And that is an empirical question. This is not a theoretical question. I mean, you are situated in a time and a place. So you can observe where the opportunity or the opening exists in terms of geographical space and in terms of the organizational space, if you want to transcend individuals, individual practices. So now you may like to look around whether some opening exists for you in government, in mayor municipalities, in central government, in schools, in hospitals, in NGOs, in the villages or in the towns. So it really depends on now the exploration of the ripe space for you to think. But whoever you may approach, you may have to tailor. Naturally, you have to tailor. That is the part of skillful means of what is most useful to them. For some, all this big talks about broad condition is useless. They are struggling with matters of livelihood. Yeah, and that is too the responsibility of raising happiness. So you have to solve first the problem of immediate bodily problem of being completely foodless or drunk or smashed by poverty, homelessness. So there is no time for them to listen to these high-sounding things. So that is the first line happiness for them, Of course, you will also have another one, which is not very broad, but people who are traumatized, people who are suffering from high degree of mental stress. Now, this can include very wealthy people either. This is not a question of poverty alone. People who are suicidal, feeling suicidal, people who are depressed, So these are rather frontline services you have to provide, and they are also connected to micro solutions from the side of happiness and well-being. Alienated, disabled, lonely people, they are also frontline services you have to provide. Now, beyond this, then it is a question of changing the field, rather than the farmer. You change the field, that is how it will grow, and that means you have to touch really laws, policies, and legislations, because eventually society is managed through norms. And if the norms are drawn from neoliberal economy and politics, and you are talking about some kind of a Buddhist conception of life, it won't click really. So gradually, I think you have to make a little bit of suggestions to hybridize, hybrid, gradually hybrid, But as the people are above much higher than poverty threshold, then you can discuss other dimensions of life besides education, health, and living standard. You can discuss about the community, about nature, about culture, etc., etc. So I have no distinct and concrete tailor-made things. This is an empirical question, and one has to do a so-called assessment before you build the project. What is the best use of your resource and time? So I stop with this very unsatisfactory general answer. In the case of Bhutan, we did the local, global. Our main constraint is resource. We are a small country, and our office is very small, and I'm not a person with big standing or any big budget from the government. So we could do very little, but over time we tried to kind of touch any available levers we had, from the UN, from the local UN to the headquarters in New York. And occasionally we also talk to business people, wherever the occasion rises for a few of us to influence. But publication is also important. Social media is now very important. We are not good at it whatsoever.
Very good. Very good what you're saying about implementation. And you spoke about changing the field and then grow new things. And one of our questions, I feel like it's connected to that, which is maybe one of a big attachment that keep us on the current track of the train and is keeping us from changing the direction is a mindset that has a difficult to combine this happiness and well-being culture you were talking about, and the productivity, the material results we need to generate in our companies, in our businesses, like they were separated things or hard to combine. How do we combine? How can we implement this happiness culture you're talking about and still be connected to the material results, but in a virtuous way, so that they no longer feel separated in our minds?
Can you restate that, because it didn't come through very clearly? You want to combine materialism and happiness?
No, I will read the question as it arrived.
Yeah.
Let me just, yes. How can we care about the holistic being of our team and collaborators without losing the sense of production we need to have?
without losing the sense of production. Okay, I think I will give first the long-term answer. The long-term answer is that the sense of production, or I think this, you mean to say the volume and the quantity of goods, probably. Probably. Is that so?
Yes, but like a company, for example, we need to deliver what we were hired to do. We need to have results.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, to do that, we put well-being aside in Western culture. How can we do our work with happiness in our hearts? I feel like this is the question.
Yeah. Now I get the sense. I get the sense now. The yeah, every company now, every company in the world would like to either they have to increase the revenue. That's their goal, I would say. That's their goal. Now, revenue is coming either because you hike up the price while keeping the quantity constant, or keeping the price constant and increasing the volume. Uh, but in order to increase the revenue in the long term, you need to from the modern firms theory. I know that you need to either increase the price or increase the population, or increase the advertising, so that people's taste will shift towards your good, that sort of thing. Um, uh, um, um, but I don't know about the medium term, but finally my main point is that I don't know about your good, but finally my main point is that the overall production has to decrease. Overall has to decrease, but the well-being has to increase. But how this two paradoxical thing can happen is very easy in my mind. It's very, very easy that lowering output, lowering consumption a little bit is consistent with also increasing happiness. This is for me not a very impossible question whatsoever. So this is the long-term direction, but I don't know your company, so I cannot offer a very specific thing, Of course, I would ideally approach it from the company side. I wish there was a greater CEO who would fulfill all these greater responsibilities to the company, to the workers, and to customers, as well as to the community near the companies. These broader linkages ought to be maintained, not to just the customers, but these broader linkages. And to do that, we developed something called the GNH for businesses. And some Brazilian companies have subscribed to it, and they are being assessed just now. Almost finished, I think. They're being assessed. Some companies in Bombay are also being assessed by this, and this just shows the other additional things they can do for the communities, for the workers, for the environment, for the, so it is assesses from the emotion to the culture in the company. It's a slightly different framework than corporate responsibility or B Corp. B Corp. But it does not make any demands that you reduce the revenue. Revenue may be increasing, but because you are responsible for many other things, it may go slightly lower. But our proposition is that the company will last very long because everyone is happy and the community around is also happy. So it is a slightly different attitude of managing the company. Earlier, it used to be just rate of return in this company. So the Bhutanese Bank of Bhutan, Bhutan Telecom, Bhutan Hydropower, etc., already subjected to this assessment on a voluntary basis. But the first line of thinking is to check your workers. How is their families? How is their themselves doing? And also check on the workers, how stable they are, how satisfied they feel, how sense of belonging to the company they have, how sense of meaning they feel because of their job, because job content is a big part of life. So they must feel positive about all of these things. And there are many, many details in that assessment form. Are they getting good rest during work? So many details. So it is really a question of taking bigger care.
Perfect, Dasho Karma Ura. Very enlightening indeed. One last question to finish. You spoke a lot about working for the sake of others, to provide good and happiness to others. In our culture, we use the word service, to be at the service of others. And I feel like there's a value in a virtue which is at the core of it, which is compassion.
Yeah.
Finish. Can you speak about compassion and how can we practice compassion in our daily lives in order to become the regenerative leaders we need to be at this moment to change the course of the train? So talk about compassion with us to finish, please.
I think the Buddhist spiritual leaders talk endlessly about it, as you know. But we in our ordinary conventional life has to be a little more practical about it. So first thing I would like to think is that instead of living empathy, etc., at a theoretical level, try to talk to people whom you don't want to talk every day. Try to connect and communicate with them. That's very practical. And then, if possible, try to give 1 hour every day to social work. You have to make a rule that will not involve any of your interest. That you are not doing it for your fame, for your company's face, for your social image, etc. Nothing like that, but from the root of your heart, just do it in order to kill your self-centeredness. Now, there are two views on this, and one is that it has to benefit others. At the beginning, I don't think this is very important. At the beginning, it is to refine your virtue or character. So it doesn't matter. As long as you do it, even if it is for a wealthy person who is better off anyway than you are doing it in order to kill your self-centeredness. So it doesn't matter really. You should not behave like the foreign ministry of France or England, checking whether the poverty is real or deprivation is real. At the beginning, I think you have to form that as a virtue. So you give it irrespective of the benefit, but it is changing you first. It's changing yourself first. because virtue character has to be formed first. Yeah. So it becomes a mode of being. That's what I meant by, and and then later, if you are making very, very big sacrifices, maybe targeting, filtering, accuracy, etc., might become important. But if you start by targeting, filtering, etc., you are likely to develop such criteria that your self-interest gets woven into it. So at to begin with, I would set up 1 hour or so. Well, if you cannot do that, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you do something for others. But not with the aim of helping others, but mainly to transform yourself. So eventually, of course, this kind of generosity and compassion, which are two sides of the same coin, and if the other side doesn't exist, you won't succeed. So generosity won't succeed unless compassion is there, and compassion is totally empty without actual generosity of time, labor, goods, money. You have to give up something. You have to give up something which hurts you. So eventually, the goal is mentioned in very perplexing terms in the Prajna Paramitra. This is the text of the 6 virtues. It's a voluminous. One is 8,000 lines, one is 25,000 lines, and one is 100,000 lines. 3 different books on this. So perplexingly, it says generosity should have no giver, no recipient, no good. That's talking about eventually selflessness and emptiness, etc. But we don't have to go to that extreme. So my main point, first, just to transform yourself, give because you are feeling stingy. Reduce stinginess, and then we shall see how it expands from there.
Perfect, Dasho Karma Ura. Thank you very much for your speech and the lesson you gave us today. I want to tell you that here in our master program, in our academic community on purpose culture, on leadership, on regenerative leadership, we are committed to receive those learnings, to practice what you are teaching us, to study your speech again and again, and to bring it into ourselves, our culture, and maybe even to producing scientific knowledge in Brazil. We are very thankful, and we hope to be able to keep in touch with you.
Okay.
Source of all these knowledges, and we honor this very much. And I really, really want to thank you. And I will pass also to Thiago to say a few words, to thank you. And we will finish, as our culture, we always do this 1 minute of silence to integrate everything. But I really want to say my goodbye by thanking you, saying it was a pleasure to see you again. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We are so grateful to receive these teachings. It was a pleasure to stay with you today. It was a special day for us. And I think Santosha said everything. I want just to say thanks. And here we will follow with firmness in our Dharma. And we are very happy with this friendship, with this partnership. And I want to put one intention. I would love to visit you one day in your country, in your home, to observe more the knowledge, because I think some things we can observe not with words, with the presences, then together. Then thanks. I don't have another word to say, your generosity, your kindness, your love. And I think it's this. And now I want to suggest 1 instant of silence to close this special meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the guests. Thank you, the classmates. Thank you, Santosha. Thank you a lot. Okay, let's make 1 instant of silence. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dasho Karma Ura.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.